Hello everybody and welcome back to another naval inspired diorama. In this video I'm going to be showing you the German Narvik class destroyer, the HMS Hero and the HMS Eskimo, like they're shown here. Now some of you may have been modelling for quite some time and this is the kit that I'm going to show you. It's a box containing several kinds of destroyers which I built, well, years ago. You can see here on what's supposed to be the HMS Hotspur. That's what's in the box, that it looks absolutely miserable. The paint is awful, everything is gloss, there's a lot of patterns all everywhere. And as you can see, the same thing here on the Narvik destroyer, that it's covered in dust and the paint is all wrong because I did this when I believe I was 12, 11 or 12. And the same thing with the HMS Corsair, you can see the paint's already flaking, it's covered in dust. But that's okay, we're going to fix all of these ships and hopefully they'll turn out for the better when we're done. Now if you are a naval history nerd like me, you may already have recognized some of these names, like the Eskimo and the Hero, and you might have seen these types of ships before. And that's because the theme of this diorama, where all these ships are going to play a part, is the Battle of Narvik. And in the background here you can see some photos from the Battle of Narvik, and I'm going to try to recreate some scenes from the battle and turn them into one piece of diorama. Now in the first picture here you can see a damaged German destroyer. I can't remember the name, I should probably check that out and add it in text when I'm editing this. That has been damaged in the Battle of Narvik. It has a slight list, and because of the damage that it took during the battle. And here in the next photo you can see another, I don't think it's the same ship, it's a different ship, but it's still a German destroyer that is already sinking. And we're going to use these photos, these are stock photos, as my inspiration for what I'm going to do with them. And here in the next photo you can see a rather interesting photograph from the HMS Eskimo. She was torpedoed and lost her entire bow in the battle. This is after she made it back to port where some work has been done, but she looked rather worse for wear. As seen in this photo, this is shortly after she was torpedoed, but thankfully saved. As you can see, it's not very easy sinking a tribal class destroyer, at least the bad German destroyers of Narvik couldn't do it. Now the idea behind this diorama was to use several of the photos from the Battle of Narvik and turning all of them into one diorama. So the German destroyer with a list that's been run onto shore, that's going to play one part, and then we're going to have the Eskimo with a bow blown off, being towed away to safety by the HMS Hero, which was also there. Now, the Hero and the Eskimo weren't there at the same time. The Hero was there at the first Battle of Narvik, and the Eskimo was there as a second battle, but that's not that important. This is just a model diorama, and I think we can allow ourselves to be a little flexible with historical accuracy. But on with the build. Now, I have shown this technique before, how I make a sea diorama, but I'm going to talk you through it rather rapidly. As you can see, I'm using tin foil, which I'm tearing into smaller pieces, and we're just going to scatter them around rather randomly. This is going to form the base of the waves and just going to give a little texture to the diorama itself. And as you go along, just crumble them up so that there forms little pieces like this. And I don't have a particular pattern for this, it just has to cover everything like shown in this photo here. And after you do that, you just glue them in place. Use a lot of PVA glue so that they don't fall off and won't run away. And after that, you just add a top layer with PVA glue, and you just let it sit for a while. Now after you put on a top layer of PVA glue, you use another piece of aluminum foil, which you don't tear up, you lay it on top, just like I've shown here. And you let it sit for a while so everything dries up and hardens, and then voila, you end up with this. And I have to admit, it looked like a brownie that my mother would bring to some sort of party that we held at my school, but there is a diorama in there somewhere, trust me. Now the next thing I did was to cut the holes so that the ships would fit, and I also added, you can see this white stuff in the background, there's supposed to be the mountains of the fjord, and show you as I go around here that I had to test with the ships, obviously, quite a lot of times, and cut them rather precisely to shape. And as you can see here, as I get what's supposed to be the HMS Eskimo, I've torn the bows of it at this point, and you can slide it into here, and as you can see it fits rather nicely, and you just go on doing this. And speaking of the damaged Eskimo, it doesn't look very realistic with the bow like this, so I did this. I got some PVE parts that I haven't used, and I tried to replicate some battle damage that's been torpedoed. You can see some struts and things here, and I've tried tearing it up so it looks like something has been blown off, and I have to say I think it looks acceptable. Not great, but acceptable. And we move on. Here you can see all the ships have been placed where they're supposed to be, the battle damaged Eskimo. And the next thing now is painting. I don't have the proper paints for these ships at the time of the Battle of Narvik, but I'm going to try and do my best, so hopefully they'll look like this thing. This is the HMCS Haida, a Canadian tribal class destroyer and the only surviving tribal class destroyer to this day. Now, I know that this might probably not be the correct paint scheme that the Eskimo had at the Battle of Narvik, but sadly it's the only paint that I have right now that I can realistically replicate. So it's going to be the HMS Eskimo in the 2020 Haida color scheme. I don't think it's far off, but it's the best we can do, so we'll just have to live with it. And yes, sorry once again, I failed to take a video of the painting process. If you would like me to show you, I will try and remember to do it to the next time. But until that, you'll just have to accept my apology. But anyway, everything has been painted now. You can see the sea and the destroyers have been painted. I'm going to attach a rope between the two destroyers over here, and maybe some things over here on land, a house maybe, I don't know. But I am going to paint this thing because it looks rather crap right now, and when we come back, hopefully it will look rather nice. I'm just pointing at what was supposed to be a waterfall here. We'll see how that turns out in the end. Now after painting the mountains with a dark grey, I go over them with a very dry brush with some lighter colours just to enhance them a little bit, to improve it. And as you can see, I use a very small amount of paint, and just go over them like this, and this really highlights the mountains of the fjord. And I think they look pretty good after I'm done painting them. I think they look like stone, at least from a distance, and this is 1:600 scale, so you're not supposed to study it that close anyway. Now the next thing I do is to use some diluted PVA glue that I'm going to put some snow powder on, and once that's done, it's going to look pretty good. We'll get that step in just a few seconds. I'm running out of things to say. I don't know if you can notice that. Tell me in the comments. Now there's probably a more efficient way of doing this, but here's the way I attach my ships to the diorama. After I've done and completed the base, I use aluminum foil and just put the ship on top of some foil, and I push it into the hole that is cut out for it, and then I use a brush or a scalpel and I try to fine-tune the waves around the ship, as you can see I do with this flower stick right now. That gives you a rather nice wave effect, and then you just finish off by covering the entire thing in PVA glue to secure it and to fill in the gaps. And for the second time in this video there are going to be some missing footage. I didn't record myself finishing this, painting it and securing all the ships in place where they're supposed to be, but eventually, after a couple of hours of work, I ended up with this. And there you can see the ships, they have been glued in place, and I've painted the sea and some wave tops, and I've added a bit of cotton around the ships, so you can, it's supposed to be waves. They don't look very promising right now, but we are going to improve them. And when I say improve them, we're going to use this. This is extra heavy gel medium. Extra heavy gel medium. That's a bit of a strange name, isn't it? Extra medium. How can something be extra medium? Anyway, this is a product that you can use to create wave effects, and I'm going to use them now to make the cotton look like it's actually foam from the sea. That's going to be surrounding the ships and the mountains going down to the fjords. So hopefully they're going to look rather good. And it doesn't look half bad. I have been very subtle here. I probably should have used more, but I think it gives a rather nice effect, and I hope you'll agree. At least I like it quite a lot. It's the best product I've found for this purpose, so I can highly recommend it. And that should cover the entire build, so there's only one thing left to do, and that is to show you the final presentation. Hope you like it! There you go, boys and girls. That's my Battle of Narvik diorama. I tried incorporating a lot of different historical pictures and historical events that didn't necessarily happen at the same time, but I think it makes for a pretty cool diorama. There are some details in there, like for instance the name of the ships, or the numbers rather. There are the correct numbers. The paint schemes might not be correct. I should have added some damage to the German destroyer over there in the background. But all in all, this is just a quick build where I used some models that I had laying around and turned them into a rather neat diorama, I'd say. So hopefully I'll give you some ideas how you can repurpose your old model that is collecting dust somewhere, and this is how you can refurbish them and give them new life. Hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, and hopefully I'll see you around in another video. Cheers!